Right. So if there's any mosquito swatting during this podcast, no, it's because there's mosquitoes around. Today you got Adam on the podcast, Adam Kavanagh. You might have seen what he's up to a bit on some of my social media and such. We've been hanging out a bit and just want to have a bit of a chat. So what'd you have for breakfast?
Bacon, eggs, and lamb, actually.
Yeah.
A few leftovers.
So you came and stayed with me for about a month or 6 weeks or something a while back. We pretty much met through social media, probably through the Wim Hof crowd as well.
Yeah.
We had common connections there, and just sort of I was getting into farming, and you were like, I can probably teach you a few things. At that time, I guess you were going pretty hard with carnivore. Like, what's been your experience with what's it like just eating meat?
Yeah, to be honest, actually, it's probably the best I've felt in a couple of years. So I kind of stumbled across it through all the same channels as you, probably, like Dr. Sean Baker and a few other people I knew sort of trying it, and Origins Nutrition.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest, at first, I was pretty scared to try it because, apparently you're going to die if you don't eat veggies.
Did you really think it was going to do something bad to you?
To be honest, like I was a little bit like worried to step into it and not have veggies, just with all the sort of stuff you get force fed about how you need veggies. And I mean, I'm not going to say I'm like down one way, like one path more than the other, but in the beginning I was a little bit sort of worried to think what my body might do to just eat meat. But yeah, to be honest, it's actually the best I have felt in a long time, and even my stomach and even my bowel movements and everything, like, have just been unreal since doing it.
Yeah.
So
I guess for me, like I've been pretty honest about ongoing kind of health challenges being the real driver for my exploration of nutrition and training. Like, that's probably why I'm so interested in it. When I heard of carnivore, like, I was just getting a little bit of allergies, a little bit of hay fever. I've just been down at the Roosters, and it sucks being in that environment when you have to worry about, am I going to have an issue with my eyes being red and watery and shit while I'm trying to help people go to another level with their performance. And there's a superficial side to it, but there's a truth side to it of, like, you're not your best to help other people if you're dealing with that shit. Like, so that was pretty much for me. It was like, well, fuck, I've tried so much stuff. I've done like 7-day fasts. I've done periods of veganism. I've done vegetarian. I've done all this stuff. May as well give this a shot, because I'm not really happy with where I'm at right now. Like, did you have a bit of that, like, not happy with where I'm at, or I think there's another level?
Yeah, to be honest, like, I like to be a bit of a guinea pig with this stuff, and I would never ever recommend something to anyone else unless I'd tried it first. And that's how I felt. And to be honest, like, I did think about it a bit, and a lot of my issues that I was having at the time were food related. And I guess if you look at it, most things that we're intolerant to are like nuts, seeds, grains, plants, and that. So I guess the more I thought about it, I thought, like, maybe it could be a useful tool. So that was definitely a big factor into why I did it, to hopefully try to alleviate some of the issues I was having. Because at the time, like, I thought I was doing everything right. Like, it was getting really complicated, like trying to eat these plants, not eat these plants, have sweet potato but not white potato. And I was getting a bit confused about, like, what was actually happening in my stomach. So I guess looking back at it now, going carnivore has been like a massive reset, and it makes sense. Like at first, to be honest, it was a bit daunting, but now I've done it. Like, it makes so much sense to give it all up and have a good reset. So
it wasn't, just in case you're wondering, anyone who's tuned in, it wasn't my doing. Adam definitely made that, call on his own. He was probably going harder with it at the time than I was. Like, I'd probably been through my super hardcore period with it, and I was easing up a little bit on it and trying some other things, you know, when you came and stayed. But yeah, I feel as though it's just such a powerful tool that so many people are dealing with gut issues and health issues. If you've got gut issues, you've got health issues, whether you admit it or not. And to not have gut issues, like it's such a blessing, you know. It's such a better life, you know, better place to live from. I get that probably fits in pretty well with being a hunter.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be out bush, and like, what's the longest time you've spent sort of kind of off grid?
The recent stint I did with my brother up in the Gulf, like, you know, still have access every few days to phone signal, and I mean, like, if I need it, the shop's there, but that was probably the longest stint that I've been mostly off grid for.
Yeah.
So it was like a bit over 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. And literally did not buy any food from the shops in that time. Like, only ate what we got with the bows.
And that's like a transition that you made, like, philosophically,
Yeah.
because if you feel like you need to eat veggies and you're out there in the bush, like, how much veggies are there to eat?
Yeah, to be honest, it's very seasonal. So I don't know if it's something like this. There definitely would be plants there that you could eat maybe all year round, but realistically, everything's seasonal. So like, there might only be like a month or 3 month window once a year, if the rainfall's right, where you could actually eat plants.
And how many calories are you going to get from a lot of those? Like,
yeah, to be honest, like, you'd have to be eating that stuff all day to probably get the same energy requirements as like eating one bit of meat or something like that. Like, it's not even in the same ballpark.
And there's a fair chance that by the time you've eaten that much of that shit, that it's going to make you sick. Like, have you had that experience of like eating too much of those bush plant foods up there and feeling not the best? Or
not yet, to be honest, because they're that sort of hard to collect enough to eat a big meal of it. That I haven't found enough to actually have a really big meal of them yet. So
yeah,
you know, it's not like going to the shops and buying a big bunch of bananas. Like, it's you just can't, like, you literally just can't do that.
Yeah. I think it's good for people who look at nutrition and think about like different experiential ways to, our ancestors ate heaps of plant food, so, you know, carnivore is not natural. Well, you're in a natural environment there where if there aren't a heap of the kind of humanized plants, like, you know, bananas and watermelons and all these, like, these are very domesticated plants. They're like dogs and cats in terms of, like, dogs and cats aren't real animals. They're what we've done to animals to be able to live together with them. And most of the plants that we eat are those kind of domesticated plants that aren't real plants. If you're like properly out there in a rural environment, like in outback Australia, like, even though it's green, right? It's not like you're in the desert. Like, where are we talking about? We didn't even say where we're talking about. Like, what part of Australia are we saying here?
Like, up in the Gulf of Carpentaria, so basically in remote North Australia, like, yeah, far north Queensland.
Yeah. So it's not dry. Or
it's basically dry all year round, except for when we have the wet season up around like December, January. And then, yeah, like, it's totally turns into a different environment. Like, it's completely wet.
Similar to Darwin climate, or not really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like, yeah, so yeah, I think it's a good thing for people. Like, if you took a friend up there who was vegan and they was like, yeah, let's hang out, let's do this survival thing together, who's going to do better?
To be honest, like, I don't even know. Like,
you'd want to have some good fat stores going in.
Unless you had like an extreme knowledge on plant foods, like, it would be nearly impossible, I think.
Is that the local way? If you talk to local and said, like, let's do plants only for 2 months, do you think you'd have a local who'd buy in, like an indigenous Australian?
Not at all. Like, my friends up there, my indigenous mates up there, to be honest, definitely the berries and the fruits that come along in the wet season are something like that they love to try and eat, but it's not something that they talk about. Like whenever we hang out up there, it's never like, oh, let's go collect berries. It's always like, let's go fishing, let's go hunting, because that's like that they know. And it's always about chasing animals that have high quality fat. So they're always after the fat and chasing animals. Like the plants maybe along the way, like we'll pull up and, you know, eat some berries and stuff like that. But that's never the intent. And that's never, like even from what I've gathered so far by hanging around up there is that I think the plants are sort of secondary and fat is primary. And that's sort of what drives what they hunt and seek out.
Yeah, I mean, so if we're talking 3 macros, they're looking for the protein foods that have fat, because the protein's going to be there. Yeah. Like every animal has a content of protein. The question is it going to be fatty? Like that blew me away. Like living out at Fink, it blew me away. We'll go hunting for roos and you know, kill it. And sometimes it was a big effort to kill it, or maybe it could be the first one that we found in like 3-4 hours being out there driving around in a car. It wasn't traditional hunting, but be shot, and then you'd go up to it and they'd cut down the middle and have a look how much fat's there, squeeze the tail a little bit, and they'd be like, no, we'll leave it. I'm like, fuck, look at this there's like, you know, 30 kilos of meat there at least. Like we just spent, you know, half a tank of petrol getting this thing. Like, let's just, you know, why don't we just take it and eat it? Like obviously that was what I was thinking. I didn't tell them what to do, but I was just trying to learn and trying to understand. You can see why dingoes and that would have loved to hang around them, because they'd be like, yeah, you go for your life on this one. We don't want it. It's like far out. Like that's paradise for a dog, you know. But that was always the measure. Like they wanted the fatty ones, and that was, I don't know if they were trying to work that out at a distance or with the seasons or anything. I couldn't pick up on anything like that. But how did they know when things were going to be fattier, or was it really a matter of like kill it and then work it out? Like, did they leave stuff behind like that?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised too. I was pretty surprised too to see that. Like, definitely with like, say, we'll call them the plain turkey. That's what they call them up there. It's definitely seasonal when they will be their fattest.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much like that's the only time of year when they will actively seek them out. And my mate did shoot one, and then same thing. Walked up, looked at it, and he's just like, "Yes, we'll just leave it." And I was like, "Yeah, like what?" But like that hasn't happened too many times. But like we'll go out, and there's a lot of wild cattle up there. We could see like 100 cattle, and they won't even bother shooting any of them, like, because they're just not fat. So like, they are pretty fussy about the animals that they'll eat. Like if they're not top notch quality, like they're getting left out there.
When do you see fat ones? For people who have no idea about farming and agriculture, like you have a bit of farm background growing up and that.
Yeah, up there, to be honest, it was sort of hard to say because the cattle, to be honest, it was probably the driest that had been, like it's ever been up there when I was up there. And the cattle were actually still pretty fat. So, yeah, I'm not too sure how to judge for them. Like I do know a lot of the native animals, it seems to definitely be around the wet season is when times are good and the grass is green. Yeah, like a lot of the wallabies and plain turkeys and like goannas and everything. Like it's probably when it's going to be at its fattest, or just after the wet season. Like after they've stockpiled again. But yeah,
it's generally like when the grass is growing fastest, isn't it? And then if the grass isn't growing fast, then the animals don't get fattened up as much. So
yeah, like definitely up there in the drought. In the hard times, like the animals are literally like just dying off and just completely skinny as. But
what would the locals go like? I know now there are shops and the scenario is different, but like what would be the go-tos during those times, do you think?
Yeah, The wild cattle up there, to be honest, even in the really hard times. So when I was up there, it was definitely in drought. The cattle were still on the cards. They were still like they're pretty hardy animals. Like,
so you're not going to get like that rabbit starvation. Like cattle are always going to have decent bit of fat on them. And then I guess the seafood as well would be seafood would be a go-to.
Yeah, pretty much the main food sources that were sought after when I was up there. It was either we'd go chasing goanna, wild cattle, plain turkeys, pigs, or otherwise it was just a trip to the coast to just load up on barramundi, seafood, salmon. Yeah, one or the other. Yeah.
How far would you travel in a day? On foot, by car?
Yeah, to be honest, up there, 100 Ks to do anything is a pretty standard drive. And then on foot, like, I don't know, my mates personally, like, maybe not as much walking, but like it would be easy for me to do 10, 20 Ks a day, seeking stuff out easy.
Yeah. So you need your food to be pretty fatty. Like,
Exactly.
you think about like people living there a long time ago, they needed the animals to be fatty, otherwise you cover all that distance, and then if you don't get sort of cheap calories, then you're pushing shit uphill. Like, protein is not a great energy source. You're going to use it structurally, but you don't want to be using that protein as primary energy, right? So, like, I think a lot of the stuff that we're working out in nutrition now, and even like experimenting with carnivore, I've definitely had the experience of getting like ammonia, so like way too much protein for my body to use, and it starts like sort of coming out of the body like excessive nitrogen. That's exactly what they would have been. Like, that's why they don't want the lean roux or whatever, and you smash in the muscle meat. Maybe touch on organ meats. I know you've sort of been in a scenario where there's been a kill. What's the priority? Are people looking for the lean cuts, or where's the priority for people who understand how to survive?
To be honest, whenever my mates go out to get a wild cow or anything like that, the organs are always primary, and they will argue over who gets which organ. And yeah, like, so there was a lot of organs that I didn't know about. There was like the milk gut, sweet bread, a lot of these other organs, and they were the ones that were getting like heavily argued over. Like,
sweet bread, the spleen, I don't know what sweet bread is.
Just like, just off the top of my head, I can't remember. But yeah, it's like a real fatty little.
Liver? Are they big on liver, or?
Yeah, no, they definitely. Yeah, the liver's got brought home. Yeah, basically every organ, even the gut got emptied and it got brought home. Yeah, everything. Yeah, everything.
People think guts are disgusting, but I think in herbivores, it's just grass and fermenting grass. Like, it's not actually really that disgusting. The whole poo tube thing.
Yeah,
like,
not at all. Honestly,
guts,
like, the more you see it, the more you sort of realize you're like, yeah, it's just
pigs though.
Grass.
Pigs. Poo tube. Intestines. Yuck or not yuck?
I don't know. There's like, in Australia especially, with feral pigs, a lot of people won't eat them because of like
worms and stuff.
Yeah, like I think it's tuberculosis, or there's another one. There's a few diseases that are meant to be in the pigs here. I have thrown all caution to the wind, and I've been eating them, and I've been fine. But I've had a few people tell me to just be a bit cautious with some of the organs in the pig. So, like, I'll stick with maybe like the liver, probably like check all the organs over, but mainly like with the pig, like I'll eat the heart. I won't touch the stomach at this stage, just because where I've been hunting the pigs, maybe it's not the best quality food that they're eating. Like, they're eating a lot of rotten kangaroos, rotten horses. So, like, I haven't quite got there with the pigs just yet, but with the cattle, they're like, it's not a drama. And
the male pig meat can be pretty full on.
Yeah, I did find, and my brother found too, we ate the boars and then we would smell like the boars after eating them. Yeah, like it'd be like the smell that lingered for like, week or two, you just
I ate the nuts on one of the ones that I killed here, and it was yeah, like it wasn't actually. It's kind of sausagey kind of meat, and not that bad. But yeah, I reckon it was coming out of me for at least a couple of weeks. You know, like the oils of it or whatever. It's yeah, you are what you eat, I guess. Apparently, they're not as bad. The nuts on other animals, bulls nuts and stuff. Is it? Have you had them on the?
I've only had young. Yeah. I've only had young ones. I haven't
full strength.
Yeah, I haven't had the full strength just yet. But actually, when my mates have killed boar, and I have heard of a few other people doing it. Like, to be honest, I'm not quite sure. Like with some animals, the quicker you are at removing certain organs in the body will affect how the meat tastes. So, like, say you were going to eat a shark, if you get rid of the there's like the sweat bladder. There's also I forget what it is. Like the quicker you can get the blood out of that animal, the better it's going to taste. Like a shark, if you didn't bleed it properly before you ate it, it's going to taste like ammonia. And same with the pigs. Like my mates, if they were eating boar, they would castrate it straight away, and then they reckon that like it would taste better then.
Yeah.
To remove like the.
So yeah, maybe like part of the stress response and stuff around when they're dying, like they're getting a huge drive of like, well, let's release as much testosterone as possible to try and survive this really deadly situation. And maybe some of that activation metabolically keeps squeezing that shit into the system. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'll have pigs again in the near future. Just logistically, it was a big challenge and whatever. But if I do, or if I go hunting and get one, then I'll probably knock the nuts off it pretty quickly. Any other pearls of wisdom? What if the zombie apocalypse comes tomorrow? What are 3 things that people should be doing or skills they should be building to prepare for a time without Uber Eats?
Yeah, right. Yeah. To be honest, to break it down in the most simplest form would be food, water, shelter. I guess. Yeah. 3 basic needs.
Yeah. What are people gonna eat if the shit goes down? I know there's not that many plant foods around here, even though there's a few banana plantations and stuff. But they're only, good when they're good. They'd probably be pretty sought out. But,
to be honest, most people don't realise it, but like we have a pretty big population of feral animals in Australia. And like even around cities like Melbourne, Sydney, there's like massive deer populations right on the outskirts of town. Like even sometimes.
So you're going to say rats then? The rats in London.
Well, that as well. Like
you're meant to be never more than 5 or 10 meters from a rat when you're in London.
Yeah, like I guess if you really had to.
But yeah,
go all out. Like there's food everywhere. Like you get geckos in your house.
Like in our house you do. Yeah, all the birds around and. Yeah, deer. There's huge deer populations here in Australia that we don't necessarily know about. Pigs. What else is in Australia?
Yeah, we've got 6 species of deer. I guess maybe more if you broke them up into their subcategories.
I'm going to see if I can scare those geese off. You keep running through all the animals.
So we've got like 6 species of deer, goats, pigs, foxes, cats, rabbits, hares, camels, donkeys, wild horses, wild cattle. Yeah.
Get out of there.
Heaps of feral animals.
Get out of there. That's too funny. Geese are like trying to tear the door. Geese are trying to tear the door off over there. They already ate through one fly screen. I think we've got 3 boys, and I think they're a bit loopy. So, yeah, we just had our first duck harvest a couple of days ago. Any reflections on the duck?
Yeah, to be honest, like I've defeathered a few birds now. I don't know why. That duck was definitely the most challenging one to date. So yeah, solid old duck.
So I train grip strength quite a lot. If you're watching the video, you can see me flexing my forearms. I don't know if they're impressive or not, but I train grip strength a lot, right? And I can squeeze their captain of crush number 2. And not that many people can close that one. Like that's a good level to get to if your life requires grip strength. If you're in armed forces, if you're an athlete, rugby player, wrestler, whatever, you should be able to close that. And I guess I'm encouraging Adam to get to that. But when it actually came to plucking the duck, and there was a TV show in Australia. A lot of you probably too old, or in other countries or whatever, you don't know about it. But there's a TV show in Australia called Pluck a Duck, or a segment inside a TV show, and it was like a prize thing. And it had zero significance to me as a child that this was actually built around, well, most people actually know how to pluck a duck to eat it. Like, there's so many of these references, like the cream rises to the top and all that sort of stuff. Like, my grandparents were dairy farmers, but in the modern age, cream has become a bad food because we've fucking lost our minds and think that we need to be avoiding fat while, carbs and sugar are fine. But the experience of plucking the duck, my hand got very tired. The palm of the thumb pad especially was very tired. And I noticed that, like that, with that long duration work, it was a different type of work. I think that's what, like, where farmers' hands, they get very, very thick, like laterally thick, because they just do so much work and thickening in the palms and all that sort of stuff. Like, tough skin, but also the muscles. But that was a bit of an adventure, and the head didn't pop off quite as expected when we were. Adam was doing the deed, and we ended up doing a bit of teamwork to chop it off as well. But it's you can't. I think we can't talk about all this hunting and stuff without discussing the concept of death. Like, are you going to die?
Yeah, everyone's going to die some stage.
How do you feel though about, like, taking the life when you're out there?
To be honest, like, in some ways, we're all pretty disconnected from everything, to be honest. But yeah, especially like where our food comes from, we're especially disconnected. And I've been lucky enough when I was young growing up to be raised on a cattle property. I got to see what really goes on. Like, I know how the food lives before you eat it. And then I've got to see cattle get harvested. Like, I've been part of it since I was a little kid. So in that regard, I was pretty lucky. And then obviously went away from it for a lot of years when we moved to town. But then to sort of get back into it again now, like, I'm lucky that I had that in the past. So I kind of have a more of a deeper appreciation for it now. But yeah, like, I mean, it's not like, it's just something that I think it's good to be aware of, to know, to have a bit more of an understanding about where your food actually comes from. Because, most people, you just go to Woolies, get your steak, it's all good. Like, there's a bit more to it.
Yeah. Do you recall, like, was it, because people worry about it with my kids, like the kids, they watched us kill the duck, they wanted to look at the head when the head was no longer attached to the body. Like, Maya's just about to turn 5. My brother was here with his wife, and I think she was a little bit unsettled by it, which is, as an adult, it's confronting if you haven't had those experiences. And I know it's been a huge experience for me, doing the deed. The first animal that I harvested, I got Adam on FaceTime and used technology to how to actually butcher it, because it's, that's a whole different, challenge and conversation itself. But by far, like, the butchering, all that stuff is not, I don't find it very challenging, whether it's because of anatomy lessons and all that sort of stuff. Like, I've worked with cadavers and that sort of thing, and once it's done kind of thing. But we're in those few seconds of extinguishing the life, like, that's a very, very intense moment. And I think you realize, like, the vulnerability and preciousness of life. But yeah, getting the kids, like, they wanted to see the head, like, they're curious about it. They don't judge it. Like, it's just something that happens in their environment. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Some people would think it's like almost like child abuse or something. I'm not putting the blood on them or making them do it or anything, intense. And, maybe those things, I'm not saying those things would be bad things either, but I mean, like, if it's something that you're exposed to as a kid, I guess it just becomes pretty normal. And it's probably, Did you have a period where you stopped doing it, like where you weren't around that for a while, like working in the time in the mines and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, like definitely as a teenager, and we ended up like traveling around Australia a fair bit as kids, and then through that period, like definitely right up until I was probably 18, 19, the like hunting or just any sort of thing to do with that had all sort of like I hadn't done any of that for a long time until I sort of left school and then sort of stumbled back into it again. But
Yeah. So was it intense when you went back into it? Like you probably weren't thinking that it was going to be.
yeah, definitely. Like I think the way you do it too changes the way you think about it. Like I know a lot of people that might rifle shoot. You're not as close to the animal. You can't.
It's sort of done by the time you get there almost. Like you do it at a distance.
Yeah, it's a lot faster. It's a lot quicker process. But like say you bow hunt, you're like you can hear it breathing, you can hear it eating, and you have to be close enough, like 30 meters or less. Generally, like it's a lot more powerful kind of experience. So, but I don't know, like just a random one to throw you, like it's weird that like we'll look at hunting as being a bit of a taboo and a bit of a weird thing to do, but like heaps of people do fishing when you're really doing the same thing at the end of the day, but like one's kind of frowned upon, the other one's like whatever. It's like not a thing to go.
Yeah. Someone holds up a massive fish on social media. It's like cool. You just hold up the head of a pig or a cow, which I've done, and people are like, oh, you're barbaric. Like, how do you do that or whatever? Like, and other people are like, cool, you're getting in touch with nature, and I actually like to do that. Like, I had a friend fly up from Sydney specifically to harvest a pig with me because he eats meat and he wanted to understand the process that every one of his ancestors has probably been through up until sometime recently, 1, 2, 3, 4 generations back. At some stage, for me, I think it's every generation up to my father, like that had been their reality. And then, Dad had the experience maybe with chickens, but every generation before that, they harvested animals. And I'd go one step further than what you're talking about with fish. If you're eating a loaf of bread, if you're eating anything that's come from a harvested field, that's a field of death. Like the tractor, all the things, like there's animals going through, the birds will follow behind the machines, those big combine harvesters and such, to eat anything that's in there, or there's nothing at all in there because it's so toxic, because there's so many chemicals in it that the birds don't even fly over it, the rats don't even go in there. So either way, it's a big field of death. And like there is no death-free food. Like a plant doesn't want to die. The plant wants to pass its genes on, but around that plant, there's a lot of death of animals for monocultures and such, and you displace their environment and all those sorts of things. So I think that I feel like it's an infantile, like childish point of view to be like, no, I don't want to engage with death. Like you're simply closing your eyes to the reality of life. Like you really, you need to go and watch Lion King. Like there is a circle of life. Like things die, and if things stop dying, things are going to get nasty real soon. Like you can't stop the cycle. Like it's a funny thing. Like have you had much like hate or pushback from how you're living, like how you choose to live?
Yeah, definitely. Not too much, I guess, but definitely there has been the odd person that has tried to get into an argument with me about what I'm doing. But like, if you really look at it at the end of the day, like no one can escape. Like, like exactly what you're saying. Like some people might try to justify what they're doing by, like, let's say just not eating meat, but realistically, like no matter what you do, there's definitely death involved around what you're doing. Like whether it's bugs death, but then like why is that lesser than something bigger? Or like, and I can understand like in the perfect world, like it would be so cool to not to. Well, I mean, I can understand why people would not want to have anything to do with it, but then that's the disconnection. Is that like you can't really escape it? Like it's there, but we're just so disconnected from it that we think that by not being part of it, that we're not being part of it, but it's just not the case at all. Like
for me, doing the killing has really affirmed the preciousness of life, because I know that that's what it looks like to be over, like in your hands, in some kind of accident, like anyone you care about. Like there's no fundamental difference in how long it takes for a life force to disappear from a pig or a goat as one in family. And so it's the preciousness of that. But I think if you try to deny death, then you kind of deny life. Like, and it sounds, I guess, like a big, very philosophical statement, but for me, that's really what it sort of affirmed, is like, well, yeah, this is what it's like, and this is going to happen to me. And the quote that I was looking at this morning, the Stoic quote, is like, don't crave death or don't fear death. Most of it's already happened, because like all the days that are gone behind you, like they're already gone, and you're experiencing that death all the time of moments that you'll never get back. I think that's that preciousness of life is kind of what comes out of it for me.
100%, yeah. That's spot on. That's exactly how I describe the hunting for me too, or the taking of any animal's life. Is that like, yeah, you definitely learn to appreciate what's really going on. Like, yeah, like how precious life is. But that's the disconnection that most people have. Yeah.
Just because you're buying from the supermarket or whatever you're buying, you're just removing yourself from the reality further and further. So if you want to be, like, I'm really, really removed from reality because I'm vegan, I'm only eating plants. If you're eating rice or if you're eating wheat or whatever, there is a death toll to that. And it's potentially even bigger. Like if we kill a cow here, we can live on that for how long?
Yeah, like weeks.
Yeah. So we can have one animal that lives right next to us. There's heaps of grass here. There's one animal that lives there. Every couple of weeks we kill one. Every few weeks we kill one. Like, what is the environmental cost of that? There's no transport cost. There's no fuel. There's no need for herbicides and pesticides. Like, that is the reason why I believe that there's the push against meat, is because there's just no money in it. People don't get sick, so there's no pharmacological, there's no food production thing, the sugar, all that sort of stuff. Like, it's it's a big call, but it's good that it's a conversation that's been had more and more. We only got a couple of % here left on the battery, so we'll maybe finish up a bit of chat around your training and around your that sort of journey over the last little while. Like, what have you been working on? Why is that part of your system?
Been trying to nail the handstand, because it's so challenging. That was the draw, and like, I'm struggling with that one. And mostly, to be honest, because I've been traveling Australia for a while, I've sort of put weightlifting and the gym sort of stuff to the side. I've just been doing heaps of like bodyweight calisthenics training. But yeah, just at the moment, I'm pretty keen to get back into the gym. So I've been doing a few weightlifting sessions, and yeah, like that's been the training again now. Just getting back into that stuff. Like, yeah, it's good to touch on it again. So,
we might go and do that when we're done with this.
Yeah, that's good.
Get some more training. We had a big breakfast. Go and put that to use. We didn't get to touch on breathing stuff, which I know has been a big part of your life. What else? I have notes here. I haven't even got my notes open, but we didn't get to touch on your photography and social media too much either. But that's probably not a bad place to leave it on. I don't necessarily want to do how can people hear more from you. But you should check out Adam's social media and his Instagram. He puts some serious quality into his photography and that sort of thing, and there's definitely passion in his photography. My wife's getting into photography, so if you see some high quality images popping up on my Instagram, just know that it's my wife that's doing it. They're not professional photo shoots, but she's having a go at learning the photography as well. But, what's your Insta handle there for anyone who wants to check out your photos?
Just Adam Kavanagh. Yeah. I mean,
the H at the end, isn't it? Is that how everyone spells Kavanagh?
Oh, it's like spelled a million
different
ways.
Is it?
But I'm sure I found it.
You'll track it down.
Yeah, if anyone wants to find it, they'll find it.
Part of the hunting mission. Yeah, I'll probably tag it as well in there somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I'm tagging you every day now. A couple of times a day on my Instagram, and I'm making fun of you or training with you or whatever. Yeah, cool. Yeah, maybe we can touch base again in the future. And if you're listening and there was something that you really like to hear from Adam about, specific skills around survival hunting, or around the photography or that sort of thing, we can probably do this again at some stage when you're calling in next. But we've threatened to do this for a while, so
yeah. Thanks for having me on, man.
Good that we actually did it. Yeah, thanks for jumping on, and talk again soon.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Champion.